Hey there, welcome to our AP Legal Zone podcast, brought to you by AP Lawyers. We are your top fix for all weekly law updates, including family, immigration, wills, and estates law. Just a friendly reminder, we are not your lawyers, and everything contained in this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and not to be construed as legal advice. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you can stay connected with any updates and get notified about our new episodes.
Hello, I'm Angela Princewill.
And I'm Sherine Abdi.
Our topic today is COVID vaccine for children, and we'll be giving you a family law perspective. So Sherine, where to start on this all-important issue of COVID vaccinations? I mean, this is not unique to COVID vaccines, but that's what the conversation is all about these days, right?
Oh, 100%. Especially now, it's a very important topic and one that's widely debated as well. But I think we should ultimately start with the best interest of the child.
Why are you starting with the best interest of the child?
Because in determining something like this, it's ultimately, from the court's perspective, they're going to be doing a best interest of the child analysis and determining whether or not the COVID vaccination is appropriate for the child.
So there's been a couple of decisions that have come out of the courts, and we can see the trend is towards judges, I guess for want of a better word, siding with the popular or public health recommendations. And the typical scenario, what would happen is a parent refuses, one parent is refusing and the other wants to get the child vaccinated, because obviously if both parents want it one way or the other, then there will be no dispute, right? So there's two sides, and the courts have to decide if, as Sherine said, if it's in the best interest of the child to get that vaccine. And what I've noticed is absent some compelling evidence of some sort.
Truly compelling, exceptional cases.
Yeah, the courts will, find that the child should get vaccinated. And the reason is because the courts have said that the government and the public health experts are in a better position to determine whether vaccine is safe or not. They don't want to have to deal with that all the time and have it litigated over and over when the people that are the people that we have entrusted public health to have recommended that this vaccine is safe. So absent something exceptional, the courts will ask that the child get vaccinated. We actually, a few weeks ago, there was a decision. Well, first there was the decision from Saskatchewan, but just bringing it close to, bringing it back home, there was a specific case where, it was, I think it was 14-year-old triplets. And, the parties had both agreed that the children should do in-person schooling. So, which is great. At least they weren't in court fighting over whether the children should go to school in person versus online. So the parties are in agreement on going to school in person. And the question becomes whether the children should get vaccinated or not. I think in this case, dad wanted the kids to be vaccinated and mom didn't, and yeah,
at that point I think so. Two of the children were doing in online schooling, while one of them was attending in person. But father's position was that prior to the children all attending in-person learning, it should be that they should get vaccinated so that they could be safe and obviously with the COVID risk. So ultimately that was the situation. It was safer for them to be vaccinated before they returned to in-person school.
Yeah. And the judge actually said, absent compelling evidence to the contrary, it is in the best interest of an eligible child to be vaccinated. So I think the message in this case is loud and clear. If there is a dispute and, there's reasons why you don't want your child to get vaccinated, it has to be something beyond just your personal aversion to the vaccine. And I understand, there's a lot of questions. There's actually more questions honestly than answers, I think, with the vaccines, and I respect that. I respect people's rights to self-determine and decide what they want to do in these cases. But unfortunately, what is best for you and what's in the best interest of the child don't necessarily always align. And the courts have said, if they're found to be eligible,
then there's a general presumption that they're eligible, that the vaccine is appropriate, and in their best interest.
So that's sort of where that went. But I think another thing that kind of comes off of this is what happens where there's the children refuse, right? So that's where, we have family law decisions intersecting with the Healthcare and Consent Act. In this case, in the Ontario case I'm referring to, I believe the children were 14. And under the Healthcare and Consent Act, there's, if a child is mature enough,
a mature minor. I think that's what they refer to it as.
Oh, a mature minor, right? So there's the understanding that where there's a mature minor, that their views and preferences on the issue would be taken into consideration, right? And if they don't want to get the vaccine, I guess that's, then maybe the courts would consider that. But family law being what it is, there's also that question of how independent is the child's views, right? So is it the child's views actually, or is it influenced by the parent that wants the child to behave one way or the other? So that's an interesting thing. There's also obviously going to be the issue where, if the child, I guess I struggle with what happens where both parents are on board, one way, either against or for, and the child doesn't want to, but obviously that would not be a family law issue, so I guess I should not allow my mind go too far there. But anyway, so that's something. So if you're saying you don't want your child to get vaccinated, and the child also doesn't want to get vaccinated, it's not, the analysis just doesn't end there. I think there was a case out of Saskatchewan, and that was a 12-year-old child in that case, and the courts, I guess there was agreement that she was also mature, but dad's argument in that case is, well, her opinions are not hers, and it's heavily influenced by what the mom was sort of feeding to her. And in that case as well, the courts said the child had to get vaccinated, kind of with the same reasoning in Ontario, that, except there's something out of the ordinary. Now, I have to add that in that case, it was also complicated by the fact that the child had diabetes and so
other health concerns that may, well, from mom's perspective, not make her eligible or appropriate for her to take the vaccine. But she also had her own concerns and regarding the experimental nature of the vaccine and her own personal.
And so, in spite of that, and that was a case where we got, there were a lot of medical experts on both sides, and actually more on mom's side, if I remember correctly. That kind of, I think, relied heavily on sort of the government mandate. But even in that case, like regardless, the court said, there has to be specific proof that the vaccine is bad for the child in question. But absent sort of that, like specific compelling evidence for it in a situation, then the courts would err towards ordering that the child get vaccinated. So anyway, that's our 2 bits of wisdom today. And we hope this helps answer any questions anyone might be wondering in terms of how, the courts would view, where the courts would kind of land when we're dealing with to vaccinate or not. So anyway, we're always here to help at AP Lawyers. And for now, it's bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening and joining us in the AP Legal Zone. We hope you enjoyed this episode. You can find more episodes by searching AP Legal Zone on anywhere you watch podcasts. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast today so you can stay connected with any updates and get notified about any new episodes.